somebody that's already dead. How are we going to kill somebody that's already dead? It's because of men like you that all must be destroyed. It's because of men like you that all must be destroyed. Not by anyone who still remains alive.
brain treatment was given to you. You are a robot, that's all you are. Better not change your mind. You just better not.
10.
Better not change your mind. You just better not.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, hi, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Tangents, where Jeff will eat cookies for your viewing orgasmic pleasure. Yeah, oh,
I can turn
there
on
you
the
go.
mic, too.
Even better.
Make some
Yes,
delicious
yes,
crunchy
delicious.
noises.
John Haynes, thank you for the subscription. 25 months. Damn, that's crazy.
Man,
No kidding.
the repeat offender.
Over
That's
2
over
years,
2
he has
years.
been my digital pal. I love the internet. I don't actually have to physically meet anybody.
I know you said meat, but I thought you might have said
Well, you
eat,
know,
and that
6
was a
one
little
way, half
odd
dozen the
looking.
other. So we're very happy to have you all here tonight for our 26th episode. We're like March 9th will be our 1 year anniversary episode. So that's exciting.
That is crazy.
I know, right? So let's.
Wow, it feels like we just started this 11 years ago.
I know, right? Like it feels like simultaneously like it hasn't been that long, and then it feels like I think we've been doing this for 5,000 years or something. So I don't know. I feel like
Time is
I know. I feel like I've grown old with you all. So
I feel
Christoph,
like I've grown old for sure.
yeah, definitely. The Ben Gay's kicking in. Christoph, how are you tonight?
I am doing very well, and you?
Yeah, good, good. What's new in your world?
I am the proud new owner of a Shure SM58. I finally have a
Dude.
decent microphone.
Awesome.
So I'm very excited about that.
Excellent. Can't wait for you to start using it.
Yeah.
Maybe you can
Me
point
too.
it
Well,
just
I'll
right
probably
so
use
we
it
don't hear your
till
laptop
tomorrow.
fan. Ooh, what's going on tomorrow?
Spike Club.
Spike Club
Yeah.
on Twitch?
Indeed it is.
Fantastic.
I'll be playing industrial music.
Industrial music, you say? I heard the kids love that.
Nope, no they don't.
Yay!
But old people like me do.
And me. Well, cool. I'm glad that that's
Yeah.
going on. I will be watching out for that one. Anything else going on this weekend? Do you have any big to-dos?
So this is the first weekend. I do not have to pack up all my equipment and go out and DJ. I get to leave everything set up for a week,
Wow.
which has not been the case for a while. I DJ'd last Friday at Stimulate for the people that braved the winter and risking Omicron. So that was a lot of fun.
Very good.
And I did my birthday stream for Spike Club last Thursday, and I got rated, had a big turnout. So that was also a ton of fun for me. So this week is low key. I'm just doing Spike Club, and then I've got the weekend off.
To do what have you?
Well, I got snow coming in, and I love snow because I do not have to shovel much.
Oh,
And that's the secret. Like, so I live in a condo, so somebody else has a snow thrower, and I don't really have to do much except for shovel out my car. Shoveling out your car is nothing compared to shoveling out your driveway, so of course I don't mind.
I spent the past 2 days shoveling out my driveway, so I understand.
That sucks. You need a snow thrower.
I have one, but as I pulled it out the other day, the belt broke.
All right, let me rephrase that. Working snow thrower. That's what you need.
I'm waiting for you to come out
It's
and.
easy to make a flamethrower.
That's true. Can of hairspray and a lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, that would be a great way for Elon
Yeah, right?
to market those things, right?
Remember? Honestly, if you did it with hairspray, I actually think that the CFCs, the amount of hairspray that would be needed to flamethrower an entire driveway, you'd actually just burn a hole in the ozone layer from the CFCs directly over your house in such a way that it would just melt the snow
Well,
anyway.
the same amount as a
Yeah,
standard evening for Robert
that's
Smith.
it.
It's a long-term,
you know.
short-term thing.
I don't have
right.
I don't have kids. I don't care.
Honestly, I mean, there used to be a lot of snow, and in the last 30 years, that's dropped down a bit
True.
thanks to climate change.
Yes.
So now when it snows, I just have to wait, and it just melts.
Yeah.
Used to be, it snowed, and it stayed white for like months. It used to be snowy and icy, and back when there was cold.
Yep.
So.
Absolutely.
Just like grandma used to make.
The cold. Frigid,
Yeah,
like
oh my
grandmother.
Speaking of cold, how are you, Jeff?
I am radically adequate. things things are extremely okay. No, it's been good. It's been a fine week. I've got a new bass. There it is.
Look at that.
Just bassing.
And
It's my very first bass.
He can already play it well.
He can.
Well, here's the trick. A bass is just a guitar minus 2 strings. You do have to figure out different pressure and different spacing, and it's different play style, but like at least the notes are in the same place.
True.
And that helps a lot. That gives you a big head start at least. So
I already watched him play a ripping version of YYZ the other day. It was pretty intense.
just was indeed. So I would say that and trying to, I guess, like get ready to do RPM like an idiot. I don't know. That's it.
Make sure you pick the shortest month of the year for it.
That's the
That's
the point.
That's the game. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to that.
RPM tagline that's like unspoken, but it's there just as bad as it can be.
The best worst time you'll have in 28 days.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on your new bass, and I look forward to
Thanks.
competing with you in RPM Challenge.
Yeah, me too. It is a competitive event for anybody who's considering doing it. You get judged, you get points, and the loser gets thrown into the volcano.
Yep. Yay.
And now I want to do it.
I know, right?
Yeah, there's a chance to get thrown into a volcano. Sign me up.
Totally.
Yeah. Like, do you want the escape from death, but you don't want to get blamed for suicide? Lose at RPM.
Right.
Perfect.
Wow.
Oh, we
We've
have
got-
some spam.
I know. I see that coming from
Is that
YouTube.
spam? It's Russian.
it's Russian
Maybe
spam.
It's legitimate.
It's I just set up Restream to chat through all this since we live stream on more than one location nowadays.
Oh.
So I have Restream running the chat so it pulls in from our YouTube stream as well as our Facebook stream. So we can see it
We'll
all
try
in
to
one place. So welcome, Konstantin.
That's Konstantin Romanov.
Yes, Konstantin Romanov. Thank you for the whatever the hell that is. We appreciate it. And welcome to the channel. Justin, what's new in your world?
Well, diligently working on music as I can. Migrating from the Intel Mac to the M1 Mac has been quite a sojourn. So basically the 2 weeks since we met last, it's pretty much what I've been doing and making progress. I'm almost all done. Almost there.
Sweet. Very good.
Yeah, I like the new setup. I like the Quantum as a. So I've got everything set up in parallel because my near fields have 2 inputs, right? They've got the XLR port, so basically run everything in parallel. A KVM there, and plus like a USB switch for my MIDI controller. So really, I could run like this forever if I hated my life, but. It's just allowing me to keep working on music while I'm doing all the lift and shift.
That's cool. That makes it a little bit easier, which I like.
Easy is good.
Making things transparent and quick is a wonderful thing. Awesome.
Yeah, kudos to the M1. If anyone's on the fence with that thing, yeah, it's badass.
Man, it is. So you'll be happy to know that it's your favorite time of month out here, Justin, and that is the static electricity in the basement month.
Oh, they get the wrist strap out in the rubber shoes.
Got the wrist strap going, baby.
Yeah.
Are you running a
What's that?
vaporizer, Andrew? Are you running a vaporizer?
Unfortunately, because this is the basement, there's all like in the next room over, there's a very large dehumidifier. that has to constantly run in here just to make sure that, I mean, the basement's waterproofed and everything, but the landlord stipulated that we have to have this thing running the entire time. So that is a thing. So instead I just have ESD bracelets at every station in the studio. So that way it minimizes, shock.
You just want to roleplay.
That's when I realized, I'm like, oh, that's such a fucking good idea. It was when I was watching Ken Marshall, and that's like, Mr. Rogers putting on his sweater is Ken Marshall putting on the ESD bracelet. And it's great because this thing is plugged into the Kilpatrick Phenol modular synthesizer. Actually has a ground alligator, or not alligator, but a ground banana clip on the back, plug on the back. And so I literally just have this plugging into the back of a synthesizer.
You're a modular. You are officially modular. The thing is, like, the best part about the basement isn't just the static electricity. It's in the winter, it was the constant delicious warmth that so staying awake was like well nigh impossible after like an hour.
It's true. It gets in the winter, it gets incredibly warm down here. I'll sometimes just be down here in like a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. And then in the summer, I'll have a hoodie on because it gets cold as hell in here too.
My basement, my heater is currently running behind me. It's set to try to get it to 70. It will not turn off, and if I let it reset to see what temperature it is, it will tell me it is 62 down here.
Oh, that sounds lovely. I love 62.
That's with the space heater. It is very cold down in this basement.
Yeah, no, it's about 61 here, and I have a little digital thermometer in here. It's just probably the coldest room in the house, because it's a corner room. So I got all the walls.
Well, as you can see from my lighting, I'm broadcasting from hell, so it's
indeed. So
I got the short sleeves.
Yeah, underground lair.
Well, if they wear cool ass wax track shirts in hell, I'm in.
Yep. So I did this to represent Chicago.
There you go.
Yeah. It's actually my favorite. The design is like so cool.
It is. Apparently, according to John Haynes, I am modular lent. Wow.
Modular lent.
You finally found the use for modular synthesizer, though.
I know, grounding myself.
You did it.
Yay!
That's your new mindfulness practice. I got to ground myself.
Yeah, totally.
It makes a lot of sense with the phenol.
Yeah, the phenol, the finest modular synthesizer to come out of Toronto. Yeah. So yeah, that's it's been cold here. It's been snowing like crazy. Today was like yesterday was the first day of respite from that. Lots of lake effect snow for folks who know what that is. When you live close to the Great Lakes and the lake has not frozen yet, then cold air hits it and turns into random snowstorms that will dump about a foot of snow in certain areas. I'm not in one of those areas, but I'm close enough to it where I do get some of the snow, but not like east of here. And so every year you hope that the lake freezes over because then you don't get lake effect snow. Science. But as of right now, it's only 40% frozen. And that's probably, I think they said that's the highest it's going to get this year is probably around 70%. So it won't be completely frozen over. Meteorology is one of my nerd orgasm passion things. So I love weather. Anyway, I hope you learned something tonight, folks. That's all we've got. Have a great night. Bye. Anyway.
He just wants to say cumulus nimbus.
Yes, cumulus nimbus. It's almost like saying, it's almost trying to count how many syllables are in wasps' nests. Yeah. Wasps' nests.
Is that a sibilance check? That's
I know, right? It totally is. Wasps' nests. Everyone's ears are bleeding. And of course,
Tom Wayne's brother. Sibilance.
And then Robin is on our moderator board tonight, hanging out with us. She was going to be on here, but she recently had a surgical procedure called removing the annoying people from her life, and so she decided not to be on here tonight. So
Social
social surgery.
That's a
She's
great
like,
idea.
I am not coming on watching. I'll watch you fuckers from afar, but I want nothing to do with you.
That seems legit.
Yep. And Jay Lee watching us from YouTube. Do you fantasize about mammocumuli? Wow, there's a lot of like bots on. I mean, Jay Lee is not a bot. Justin, you know Jay Lee. He's the one that was. He's for the Tangents crew. He's the person that's responsible for that movie I posted on our base camp.
Okay.
It's all his fault.
That was so great. And that was before I met him that I watched the film. And once I met him, it made so much sense. And Jay Lee's a stand-up dude.
Yeah.
Great dude.
He is awesome. So, yeah. No, Jay Lee asked if it was Overlords of the UFO. It was not. It was the Horseman movie. I can't remember what it's called now.
Yeah. Something Horseman, something Fidel Castro.
It was
If footmen make you tired?
if footmen don't scare you, then what will horsemen do, or something like that? I can't remember. But yeah, either way, I love the fact that I can show that to folks and they'll be like, what?
It's if footmen tire you, what will horses do?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's literally like, I think it was made in the 70s, it seems like, but it's you wouldn't think that detente was going on at that point because it was straight out of the 1950s, like Red Scare sort of anti-communist.
Well, let's keep in mind, Red Dawn came out in the mid-80s. Right?
But that was not made by Eustace Perkel. So and so basically what if footmen tire you, what will horsemen do is a movie made in the 1970s by a I think it's like Mississippi preacher named Eustace Perkel, and it's about that communism will take over the United States if we don't like give up our evil ways and become good little Christians. And the cast is pretty much the parishioners of this church, which makes it even better because at one point there's a guy who's the commissar, the Cuban commissar, who speaks in this Southern Cuban Russian accent-ish kind of thing about Jesus not giving you candy. And it's just, it's just bonkers. I highly recommend it. Christoph, you posted the YouTube video of the full length.
Oh, betcha I did.
You should have posted the remastered version that someone went out and remastered. Why?
How do you fucking remaster like a 16 millimeter shit ass film stuff?
You upsample it to 32 millimeter shitty film stuff.
I don't get that.
You just invent.
There you go. Now you get to suffer through.
There you go.
You just sit there and run like a sharpening mask over a bunch and do fake HDR. That's what that movie needs is HDR. Can we get a 3D version?
Oh my god, right? Surround sound.
There's not enough like machine learning in the world to make that thing HDR.
I want spatial audio.
I just want the guy from Monty Python to clack the coconuts together a bunch all the time for the horses and surround sound. So it's just like clappity 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 clap. Clap, 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 clap.
Dolby THX surround sound.
Only our glorious Fidel will give you candy.
Great. That's the scene that's emblazoned in my memory.
Yeah. For all eternity as a schoolroom scene is like, I don't taste any candy. Your Jesus can't give you candy.
It's fish and bread. Yeah.
I heard he's more of a wine guy.
I think he is. Wine and fish and bread. Yeah. And matzah crackers probably.
Yeah. Water. Stuff.
Anyway, hey, we have music news. We should probably talk about that at some point.
Sure.
Or we can keep rambling about shit movies. I'm fine with that too. Because Overlords of the UFO is another wonderful one that Jay Lee sent us.
That's a great name.
That was on one of our. That was on our
Yeah,
RPM
that was the
channel.
other one that we sampled the shit out of, and as well as the Fishman movie, my beautiful beloved Fishman.
Oh, the
Yeah.
fish man. Some of my favorite
Yeah.
quotes.
It really is.
All right. Well, for the bots that are watching, let me just say cryptocurrency, crypto mining, NFTs. Now give us yours.
Perfect. We don't actually. I've gone through and cleaned out a fair amount of the bots. I think Boss Undy. It could be. I don't know. If you are a robot, identify yourself as such. If you are a meat popsicle, same. And Edelina. Either you're new or you're not human. And then Alex Assimilate, of course, is a robot.
So, well, we can hope, but he is
I
not.
know.
But so he uses a chat software to be in like every stream.
Oh, yeah. And Justin is clearly Max Headroom at this point.
So this way, if we say him, he'll get a pop-up on his phone and he'll stop in.
Oh, cool.
Now,
That must be irritating. Anyway, on to news. Our first news, top story. Breaking news.
This just in.
Top story, most important thing that happened today. Arturia has released even blacker versions of their keyboards.
So that is what the world
Yes. In case that you didn't want any color or only two colors on your three colors really. No, actually I have to count four. Four colors on your already rather darkish synthesizers. And it's not the Keystep Pro. It is only the Brutes. So they've released a blacker than black version of the Mini Brute 2, the Mini Brute 2S, and the Drum Brute Impact. Funny that the Drum Brute is not included in this.
It shouldn't be included in
Yeah,
anything.
it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably why,
Yeah.
right?
I'm surprised they're still making the Drum Brute.
It is.
Are they
not a
making
good
the Drum
sounding
Brute
machine.
just so they can have the Drum Brute Impact, so that way people know what the difference. There's a difference. Is like you can't have good evil without good, that kind of thing. You can't have the Drum Brute Impact without a Drum Brute.
I don't know. I think it's very funny.
yeah,
The guy,
yeah.
Audio Pills, who does Bad Gear, the Drum Brute is basically the only thing
Yeah.
that he ever just did not like. This is literally like he has absolutely had some of the most reviled pieces of equipment on his gear and on his show, and he can usually find something good to say about it. But the Drum Brute, he was like, nope.
I have been trying to sell my Drum Brute for 3 years. And I even sent it to get the recall taken care of on it and everything, and no one wants to buy it. Yeah, I know. It's like at this point, it's like. So yeah, John Haynes, it's not selling.
Well,
No, I think John Haynes is right. If they're still making them, people are still buying them. They wouldn't keep making new editions. Someone's buying it. Someone thinks it's a good idea.
Ain't buying mine, that's for sure.
Now, who I blame? The children.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're probably
Usually,
like hooking it up next to their pocket operator.
Yeah.
What they're doing. I think the Drum Brute Impact sounds pretty good at least, but it's got some real weird technological implementations that I had one for a minute and I returned it because it frustrated the piss out of me. It's got this, I think, like very nice sounding distortion circuit on it, and it only works if you use the stereo out.
So, does the Drum Brute Impact have individual outs? Okay, but it won't
Yeah.
work on those. So it's
Sure
a
does.
master effect.
Yep. Only works on the stereo out.
Yeah, it's weird.
No thanks. Yeah. To be fair, though, also, I mean, you've got the Drum Brute, so I assume it's probably the same color. This looks to be more like the actual black that they should have been. It's a lot of the black that Arturia has used is like a very chalkboard gray. I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah,
I like this
I mean,
better.
I don't know, because like I saw it and I'm like, what's the difference? Because I didn't see much of a difference, and I did a side by side, and yeah, a little bit of a color difference, but I don't know if it's really enough to be newsworthy.
Well, if you're
Yeah.
holding off because you don't like the color of the previous
True.
brute, your excuses are now
The
gone.
Brute Noir, which totally does not
right.
at all sound like a French clone.
No, it sounds
God,
like an American.
Like, this is the
cologne
kind of
that's
shit
trying
that
to
you
pretend to
find
be
like at
French.
an over-the-counter Revco, like, sorry, dating myself and also localizing myself. Yeah, that's an old
Revco. Did they have that?
That's
next to
an
the
old
Micromac
pharmacy
or-
back here.
or,
Yeah, it's a
uh,
pharmacy back here in the day. The discount
I
drug
know.
mart,
We had
or
a-
whatever. Oh, thank God, I'm not the only person.
What's the name of a gay industrial night?
Oh yeah, Brute Noir, totally.
Yep. Yeah, held at Lucky Chang's.
Christoph, you're going to totally start that. So yeah, the Brute Noir is out there. It comes in 3 different flavors of synthesizer. The Mini Brute 2, the Mini Brute 2S, and the Drum Brute. I've for the longest time I was really curious about getting a Mini Brute 2S. I had the original Mini Brute and it was fun, but it just never sat well in anything I did because it was just like I'm gonna be as present as possible, and like, yeah,
It's so
the Mini
big.
Brute. Oh yeah, it really is. It's
I had
fucking
one,
huge
too.
sounding, and it's angry. I call it the synth with anger issues because it just, you couldn't make it. You'd had to work really hard to make it sound pretty.
It's really good for sort of very minimal composition stuff like Reb. Like, basically where
Because
you
it won't
have
be
like,
ignored.
yeah, like if you have drums, one synth, and voice and some samples, it works really well for things like that where, minimal synth, or probably I would imagine techno, but I've never actually heard any of that.
Techno? You never heard techno?
Not
Oh, okay.
intentionally. And so, yeah, it is a very significant sounding instrument.
Yeah, that it is. Justin, have you ever had any of the Brutes outside the Drum Brute?
Yeah, I had a Micro Brute for a minute. I agree. I think it's a Steiner Parker filter on that thing, and it's a thing. It's real aggro. If you like that sound, then you're set. I also had a Drum Brute. I sold it miraculously. I would also say I took quite a hit on it, and but I mostly sold it just because I needed the space because it was bloody huge.
It is.
I also have an Impact, and I actually I do like the Impact. It's not perfect, but it's pretty cool. It's a hell of a lot better than Drum Brute.
Yeah.
The livery with the sort of orange and gray isn't great. So I think that, if I had my druthers, I'm not going to take the time to sell and buy this thing because I'd lose my shirt on it. But I do think this livery looks better for what it's worth. I think, it's an ecosystem, and if you like it, cool. If it makes sense with your sound, cool. But yeah, my skepticism, for example, with the Matrix Brew when it's got these Steiner Parkers, is it going to have that same sort of crunchy grind situation? And because you can run the filters in parallel or cumulatively or whatever, the ladder filter on the Matrix Brew well compensated for it. So luckily, but these little ones are all Steiner Parker. I think even the filter on the drum machine is a Steiner Parker.
Yeah, I think so.
It's fine. It's a sound if you like it.
There are lots of noises, and this is one.
Yeah. I remember when it came out, I didn't know much about the Steiner Parker. I started looking at I can't remember the name of the synth that had it. There's some early synth. Same deal, real crunchy.
Yeah. Christoph, did you have any of the Brutes?
Have not.
I'm more-
I was one because I've I've read so much about that weird filter. Then I think you're thinking of the Synthicon, by the way, Justin. So yeah, I have a friend who has one, and I was meant to, get a chance to use it, and she just never pulled it out, so I just never got a chance.
Yeah, I think I finally corrected. I might have max headroom.
Yeah,
I said Synthex and then the Synthicon. Yeah, they're such a rare animal. It seems so weird to me that they would pick this thing out of a hat. I think maybe they were just trying to be different. Maybe they actually had a vision, because the original microbrute or mini brute was based on this maker guy in France. I can't think of his name. So it was all like based on like sort of handmade designs by this one guy. I don't know if he's the one that wanted the Steiner Parker, or that's something they put on it later, but it's kind of interesting because at that point, right, they had done nothing but soft synths, and then they did the Origin, and the Origin, which I still have, and I love it, but it's a bloody train wreck, and it was a huge commercial flop for them.
I think the reason why they went through this filter was just to stand out.
Yeah.
I mean, we're also going to get a Steiner Parker filter, so it was a gamble, and it paid off. I mean, it's a brute. And yeah, we guys are all saying the same thing. It's like, it's a hard filter. This synth does not play well with others. And that's often the case. Like, that's how I often describe the difference between analog and virtual analog to people. It's not hard to put 12 layers of virtual analog together and have everything distinct and sound well. And 12 analog synths recorded together, you've got to do a lot more EQ to have everything distinct with because the wild fluctuations in analog can lead to everything kind of mudding together. And this thing is just an overpowering sound. So I think somebody was a fan of this idea of this filter and was like, hey, let's try this. And this is something that we can do that nobody else is offering. And they got the guy who designed the original filter to contribute, design to it.
Ives Usen is the person that we're thinking about that designed it. Thanks, John Haynes, for the name drop on that.
Yeah.
So, and I would say that the other thing about the mini brute is I think Arturia, I mean, there's a couple things, is the other thing that they did was they really brought an analog synth into affordability that no one else was doing at the time. And they kind of were responsible for that whole, we can make affordable analog synthesizers that like Korg jumped onto with the, blah, blah, blah. That one thing that they did.
The Volcas?
Before
the Minilog?
The Minilog, thank you. Yeah. When they brought those and the Minilog and the Monolog, that was like the continuation of that. And so all of a sudden you started seeing affordable analog synthesizers. Like I'm not even saying like affordable being like sub $500 level. So it really brought that kind of thing into the world, and I think that a lot of people jumped onto that from there. So I mean, hats off to Arturia because it came out with a hit system that worked, and then kind of groundbreaking as far as that's concerned.
I mean, consider they were also semi-modular. I mean, that's pretty cool. The microbrute had, and obviously that, and the microbrute is very small, had, 8%.
No, absolutely. So yeah, get your Noir Brute on. I don't know if this is a limited edition thing or if this is a shape of things to come. Maybe this is their new design style or something like that.
I think they did it with the Matrix Brute.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's still commercially available or not.
I'm not sure. So yeah.
Find out.
Well, Arturia, if you're looking to sponsor a band, the name of my new band is Black Black. So please sponsor me. Your synth makes perfect sense.
Right? There you go. Brute Noir.
Yeah, the Matrix Brute Noir still commercially available. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that they released it. So that was like a few months ago. I don't know. I've lost all track of time. Pretty much since the pandemic. I don't really know what the hell's going on anymore.
Time is meaningless.
I'm not sure I like the Noir and the Matrix Brute as well. I think you're creating like that sort of high contrast that's ever so popular these
Mm-hmm.
days. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I like it on this stuff, but I think the Matrix Brute it has some certain character in the kind of color that they're using in the how they have it going. You know, the livery on that is a little bit. I like the original version of that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a nice looking synth.
All right. Well, this piece of news is just for Christoph. The Endless Acid Banger is not what I did to your mom last night. So this thing's kind of, I don't know if y'all got a chance to play with this thing or not. So the Endless, this is a algorithm / human / thing that's like a little synthesizer drum machine. 2 303s and a 909, but not really. That's all software. And it's a browser-based thing. And it runs anywhere. I have it actually sitting on my iPad right now doing its thing. I just have it muted, but I'll turn it up so that way you can hear it. And it runs anywhere. I have it actually. Yep. But yeah, it's just like a little goofy, 303, 808 thing job, and you can go and you can alter the patterns on it, but it's like pretty much random, and you can twiddle the knobs.
That site is freaking ominous. So I opened it and I kind of felt like I was getting Morpheus. It was like click here, and I did, and I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna regret this, and I don't know. I don't know if I did, but it's pretty weird. And the first thing I thought of was Christoph. The first thing I thought was Christoph is gonna fucking hate this thing.
Yeah, I'm already designating it malware.
Perfect.
I just love, I wonder what people like Richie Houghton think about this. It's like, sorry, the genre that made you endlessly famous is completely, you can replicate it by this very simple app.
I have a feeling my friend's bird could do better.
Hey, man.
So my friend's bird is named Cozy Fanny Tweety. And she puts Spy Club on for the bird because the bird loves newbie.
No, that's awesome.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I'm taking it. It's not a Belgian bird, I assume.
It's a parakeet. I don't know where they're from. I don't think Belgium.
No, I don't think it's quite sunny enough there.
Yeah. But yeah, so this thing will just play acid to you. And you can go and you can play with it a little bit as well, but for the most part, it's just randomly doing stuff. It'll randomly create your, all your bass lines and your drums and all that kind of stuff, and you can mute stuff and unmute it if you want to, or you can tell it to do it too. And just, yeah. Is it useful? I don't doubt it. Is it fun? For about 5 minutes. But it's clever, and it's it's cool because yeah, exactly. You open up a web browser and you can, dance around the house with it if you want to. You can interact with some of the parameters and manually if you want. And literally this dude just put this thing together and put the source code out there on GitHub. So you can make it so it's not playing acid music anymore. So Christoph can reprogram it to be a harsh industrial endless banger.
Or go to someone's house you don't like, leave this on, and then leave.
And hide it somewhere. I'm just gonna set it right here, so that way Christoph can hear it. I'll put it next to this microphone. There we go. There.
I'll be honest. I do know that you can make good music with this combination. It's just impossibly hard to do. I've tried. I have failed miserably because I remember playing around with Rebirth and getting mad that every time I tried to write something with Rebirth, it turned into techno, which I hate. So, and it's just that certain interfaces just lend you to making techno, and this is one of those interfaces. But I've heard this band do good stuff with that combination. So I know it's possible, but difficult.
I think it's because like the first thing, because of those sounds are so ubiquitous in techno that the first time if you're playing with something that makes that sound, you're going to gravitate toward making techno music because it's just kind of like, well, this is the natural progression. I hear this and this unz thing. Here we go.
I do know one of the tricks is you have to not touch that resonance knob on this thing at all.
Yeah,
What you do is like, whoop, and now I'm a raver. Back down. Oh, okay, I'm better.
It's arguable that
oh no, I'm a raver again.
it's arguable that it's the other way around. I mean, so I would say I'm going to credit DJ Pierre, sort of the first Detroit techno person who sort of created Acid House, ostensibly. I mean, I'm sure someone will
And
historically
got away with
debate
it,
that.
too.
Yeah, well, the thing is that I think techno was created by this low-end gear. For I think it's sort of the genesis of it. Like, what can you do with this that doesn't sound really cheesy? Because I mean, I think the original Japanese intention for the stuff was, well, accompany a bass player or an organ player,
Yeah,
And
it was supposed to sound like a real bass.
yeah, right. Yeah. So, but then someone was like, hey, let's make this really effed up, and from that.
Yep. I watched a really interesting documentary about the like house and techno music scene in Detroit and a couple other places. I could dig it up probably at some point. It was actually like legitimately quite compelling to watch. But one of the things that was talked about in it was actually exactly what you're saying there, Justin, is that that the sound was just sort of a byproduct of whatever was accessible. And so, if two turntables and a microphone had been accessible, like that might have been the thing. But the music was like the music as itself was, as described at least in this, was meant to be kind of transient, and so it was really only meant to be listened to while you were at the party dancing with your friends, and so it was meant to be sort of suitable for that. But the expectation really wasn't that you were going to go like put it on in your house.
Right.
So I guess, it's also kind of a question of how are you experiencing it? So, maybe I don't think so. Maybe I would like techno in that kind of an environment. I think that environment has a lot of people in it though, so probably not. But that sounds even worse than the techno, honestly. But it's but I can see it, being sort of like purpose driven like that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I think that was the thing about it and those instruments in particular, because it wasn't like they were recording this stuff into like a DAW or something like that, or into, in that case, probably, tape or anything like that. They just had this thing live and they were just jamming on it. And it was supposed to be a temporal thing. And they bought this stuff because it was cheap. They found this stuff in like, in pawn shops for, $25, and they got those things.
Yeah, because these units
Exactly.
all failed, so you could get them really cheap. And then people bought them. And the strength of the 303 is its real-time modulation. So you could jam on it and add nuances for that same bass line that you played for 45 minutes that everybody's so drugged out about that they don't care that it's been the same line for 45 minutes. By adding these modulations, it doesn't sound as completely stale like a skipping record. Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, the Endless Acid Banger. The 3 listeners that are watching us have just left to go play with it for themselves. So now it's just us and the robots. Just kidding. I see that there's still some people on here. Oh, there goes Christoph. He just decided to leave. He said, fuck it. I thought you were going to go off to play Acid? Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you. All right. So the Endless Acid Banger, which is quite possibly the greatest name ever for anything.
Maybe the name of your
Possibly.
RPM.
Endless Acid Banger.
What if you just recorded 35 minutes of that?
You could. And call it a day. You can just do that and.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's kind of phoning it in, man. You got to suffer for your art a little bit more.
You got to work at it. I mean, I think Justin and I, like at the second RPM, we just decided to do like an 11-minute long song just to finish it. But that felt that felt kind of like cheating.
If you say you got to suffer for your art, if you listen to this thing too long, you have definitely suffered.
You'd be suffering so badly.
I mean, it's quite a bit.
Bad Seed 666. Hail Satan. I don't know. There's like upside down stars and stuff like that. And all kinds of glitchy emotes and Bad Seed 666. Oh, hail myself. All right.
Hail Andrew.
Hail me.
Hail the bad seed.
I feel better. All right. So Polygon has released a firmware update for their ingenious device, the Tracker. So this firmware gives you some new stuff. Like you can actually save separate instruments with your settings, with their own settings. So that's cool. Ooh, nice. Like ASCII art on our page there. You can import them into other projects. You can select slices and sample playback. All these kinds of things that they should have been done a long time ago.
Seriously.
And they fixed a whole bunch of bugs because the thing was buggy as shit. I'm sorry, was that my out loud voice? So I owned one of these and I didn't really like it very much. And I sold it to Information Tray, and he still uses it. But I don't know. I didn't like. I mean, I guess I'm not a tracker user. I didn't like the workflow at all. It felt like I was doing math, or working in Microsoft Excel, and it felt a little hipstery.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me. But I'm glad that they fixed a lot of the stuff that was clearly messed up with that. I had a tough time using it because things weren't working very well in it, like weird freezing and stuff when you're trying to apply LFOs and all that kind of thing. And then, it's nice of them to add things like slicing and sample playback, because I think that would have been good to have originally, because I think that's one of the cool things about a lot of samplers is that you can play back you can slice. Never mind. Anyway. So, anybody else have any thoughts on the Polygon Tracker and this firmware update?
Well, it's about time. They should have taken care of a lot of these things. The ability to export and import instruments is super important for tracking. So I probably have 32 gigs of mods and XM files. And people in the mod community, you steal instruments out of other mods all the time, or even your own files. This is not a format that's like great for patch management. So that's a really important thing to have, and it should have been there right from the beginning. I wasn't interested in buying this unit because I have a computer, and so if you have a computer or a phone, I recommend a tracker called Milky Tracker. It's free. It runs on almost everything. I used to run it on an iPack, and it's a Fast Tracker 2 clone. It's a different way of writing music. It's not for everybody, but if you want to write music with samples and not have filters, this is for you. But it's neat. It's like this is when people couldn't afford samplers, but they wanted to write music and they had a computer and you didn't have a studio. This was a way to do it, and people did really creative things. And there's this trick that people used to use to get around polyphony, where it's like, well, we can't do a chord, so we're going to play the 3 notes in a chord really fast around each other, and that'll sort of sound like a chord.
Yep.
And it gives you a unique 8-bit kind of sound. Now, and you could do it other ways, but nobody does. But it's very easy to do it this way. So I think it's fun, but I wouldn't write my album with it.
Yeah. I'm kind of there. I looked at this thing because I used Fast Tracker, and then I checked out Milky Tracker a number of years ago on Christoph's recommendation. And the thing, like, as a person who doesn't generally enjoy using computers to write music, the thing about a tracker that makes it great is it's actually sort of like, it feels like a musical instrument. It's a weird musical instrument, but it feels like an instrument that was designed to be operated with a keyboard and mouse. And I think, in sort of like the very funny way that when you take one of these instruments, it's a big hunk of metal and plastic and knobs and faders, and you try to put it into a screen, you lose something. And weirdly, what it looked like to me with the Polygon tracker was that when you tried to take it out of the screen and make it a thing, you actually lost something. Like, I think a tracker, just go use it on your computer if you want to do it. They're free. There's a bunch of them.
You make a good point about the idea is, and you're absolutely right. It's the exact same issue. Is the interface on the Polygon tracker is that where it's not as quick to do stuff like you could do if you were using a mouse and keyboard on a tracker. If they gave you a touch screen, that would have been a better thing instead of using the knob and then you have to pick and choose like certain things and stuff in order to get it to work correctly. It's actually clunky.
And it has it also has like, did they do anything to change the limit of how many samples you can use in it?
No, they did not.
So it's also got like a very limited number of samples. Like 48 or something like that.
Well, that's normal for a tracker, unless you're using an instrument that has multiple samples.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With not all the tracker formats allowed.
Yes, but I'm sort of thinking about it from the perspective of like today. Like if you were to, I mean, there's a weird juxtaposition, I guess, of like it's an old thing and made physical based on the existing limitations. But I don't know. I tend to think that, you know, with what we have today with computers, even with a tracker, like you should be able to have more than 48 samples. 48 is not a lot.
Yeah.
When you consider for anybody who doesn't, like, every time you're doing something different with the tracker, like you're using a different sample for it. So it's
like your drum kit is at least 8.
Right.
Yeah. at least, yeah. So you run out, you know, 48 goes fast.
Instruments very quickly,
Yeah. 48 goes real fast.
So Justin, remember Graven Image?
Yes.
They did all their stuff on a tracker on an Amiga.
Yeah, I was trying to remember the name of it. Whether was it Pro Tracker?
I think they were using Pro Tracker, but I just remember, like, this was this local goth industrial band in the late 90s into the 2000s, and for whatever reason, the one guy that was in it was very against using MIDI.
It's never going to catch on.
Yeah, and so he wrote everything on the tracker in the Amiga. And it was just...
Well, I can make an argument against MIDI and using a tracker instead.
Well, I mean, you can make an argument about anything, really, Christoph, because you're contrary to fucking back. No.
Well, the argument would be, especially back then, that you know, with the tracker you will get perfect timing, and in MIDI you get MIDI slop and MIDI skew.
Sure.
So if that's the kind of thing that really bothers you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into that. It's almost a religious debate. It is true that older equipment did, in fact, have a lot of latency for MIDI, no question.
Yeah.
I don't think we're in that world anymore. No. But yeah,
well, it depends how you
could definitely.
But I still use MIDI.
No, I totally
it's not the worst thing, and it's easier to compensate for now than it was then.
Right.
Yeah. Well, ask anyone that uses CV today. It's pretty darn different than MIDI even now. But yeah, I think I found it, Andrew. I think it is Pro
I'm pretty
Tracker.
sure they were using Pro Tracker, but it was just...
It was an initial release. It was 1990. Yeah. I just watch the show.
He does sometimes.
Pro Tracker limited you to way less samples too.
Yeah.
I think Pro Tracker you might have only had 8 or 4 channels.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lauren sometimes watches. He hasn't been on lately, but yeah, he was the guy who had the Amiga. Was that 500 or 800? Can't remember which one.
I think it was. I thought it was a 1200 because it was a desktop
he upgraded.
version,
Yeah,
but
he
I
got
could be wrong about
because
that.
he found a used 1200 and he ended up using that, and it was it was crazy.
It was one. Yeah, I love Amigas. I mean, it's cool. I tried to mess around with, was it Notator, one of those Atari ST trackers, and just get it. It's just not my thing. I totally respect people to do it. It's super cool. I know that our buddy Lego Velt used a pretty weird tracker from like Finland or somewhere for a long time on his, I believe, on his Amiga as well. So hey, you know, more power to people. You find something that works, go for it. I'm totally addicted to modern DAWs, and that's probably going to stay that way.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, a tracker's not going to replace a DAW. It's just it's like a different sketch tool. You know, and it's fun, and you can do, if you're into the 8-bit style, then yeah, you can do authentic 8-bit music with it, but it's never going to replace the power of a DAW.
Yeah.
Yeah, just getting your head around it if you haven't used one, watching it sort of scrolling vertically.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Well, keep in mind, the original sequencers, like the Atari ST, were also vertical and not horizontal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, like, some of my favorite songs by this band were written in that format because I've seen the original files played out.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's hard.
I totally found Graven Image on Spotify.
Are you serious? Who's publishing it? Is Lauren owning it now? I guess
I don't know
right?
if I don't think it doesn't look like, because it's got the updated album cover after Lauren left. So maybe it was Alan. Who knows? But there, I totally posted it. So
it's either Alan or Lauren, right?
I just posted it up there, so folks can go and listen to some gothy 8-bit. It's cool.
Hey, not to get too tangential, but is Applejack still around?
They just opened a second store in Chagrin Falls.
Good.
Yeah.
For
So
him.
one guy that used to be in this band opened a toy store that specializes in like retro toys and stuff like that, and it became so successful he opened a second one, and that's really cool. Yes.
That is cool.
Well,
This dude was like a G.I. Joe fanatic. Like he had everything, and like he builds murals of G.I. Joe toys in the store and everything like that. And they have like these epic battles and the like fishing string and shit like that.
you know, it's so funny how like sort of like alternative people from the 90s or even the 80s choose these different paths. I think it's very cool. Like one of my friends in high school, Dan Siskin, who was a big guy in the punk scene in Minneapolis when I was living there, opened up a Lego store, and now he's got a chain of these Lego stores, and he owns one in the Mall of America, which is insane. But what he did is these gigantic panoramic like Lego installations,
cool.
you know, like, and they would have like they'd have like historical references. He'd be like, oh, this is like the Tet Offensive or something, you know, and he'd have like all this like Vietnam stuff and the tunnels, and it's just pretty bad.
And kids are just coming in and like, do you have R2-D2? He's like, let me teach you about the Tet Offensive, kids. Sit down.
Tell you what these mine rats were doing back in the day.
Here's how you make some Lego punji stick.
Oh boy. Anyway,
Kids,
the Polygon Tracker firmware. If you're a Polygon Tracker owner, you can upgrade it today for free 1.5 version. Speaking of firmware updates, one close to Jeff's heart, the Udo Super 6 has released the 0.30. They're not even at 1.0 yet. Congratulations, Jeff. You're a beta tester.
I know. It feels great to be a beta tester. I haven't gotten this one installed yet. And here's why I haven't gotten it installed yet. The Super 6 has 1/27th of 1 byte of memory, as best I can tell. And when you use a Macintosh computer, as I do, an Apple Macintosh, if you will, it writes 1/12th of 1 byte of memory of trash every time. It's like the DS store files and everything.
Yeah.
When you move the firmware over, every time it goes, there's not enough memory. That's because it moves those files too. So every time I have to go in and figure out how to do it from the terminal to delete the files and to put the new files on, because it's the only way to not have it write those history files in there.
Do you want me to write you a script?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Actually,
I can do that.
We should talk. You should talk to the Udo people, because wow, could you help them? It turns out that it is if you want to update your presets or change your waveforms or do your anythings, yeah, you got to go into the terminal every time to do it, because it goes, nope, you don't have the room for it. So I have not had the patience to do it yet. Would love for them to fix that issue. Where like if it has some sort of like tiny little bit of logic that sees a file that has this extension on it, it just throws it out. But I digress. The firmware looks.
If there's something musicians love, it's terminal, commands.
Yeah,
well,
whenever I think.
I mean,
whenever I think about it.
Trackers are popular.
Yeah, sex, drugs, and terminal commands.
Yeah,
Daddy.
That's it. So, it seems it's a fairly slight update. I think they made some changes to the way the foot pedal works. Fine. Fixed some weird bug issues in it. One of the things that they did fix that I am excited about is currently whether you're up or down an octave is not in the previous firmware. The octave setting of the keyboard was not saved as part of the patch. The new firmware adds that. I think that's pretty handy. Because sometimes I'm going through and I'm like, wow, that patch sounds terrible. Oh, that's because it's a bass. I just need to go down. And so you have some experiences like that every once in a while. But I'd like for them to make it so that you can use a computer to update their device. That would be cool. And then it has this other fun bug where sometimes it doesn't work at all. That's actually like a very frequent bug that's been talked about on their firmware, on their forum. It's not a big deal because you just turn it back off and on again, and it takes like a couple seconds to reboot. It's not like a synthesizer that has like a long tuning cycle. It's very quick, so it's not a big deal. But what this is actually, I found out an improvement. This was an intentional choice to make it totally fail, because what was happening is one voice was failing, and you didn't know which voice would fail. So you'd just get 5 random ones, and you wouldn't always be able to tell that it was going on until you were like, in a live performance scenario, that's not a great thing to figure out. So this is a change, but hopefully they can get that bug fixed out soon, and then it will work every time you turn it on. It is still a great synthesizer. This is some very silly stuff that's going on, and it is technically in beta, but all of the features that if you want to play it as a synthesizer, if you just want to like go play the instrument, it's 100% fully.
As long as it turns on.
The things that are getting them from as long as it turns on, it's functional. But the things that they're adding to it are, quality of life things with additional shortcuts and key commands and things that you can do with it with a MIDI controller externally or with the computer. So I'm excited for them to get to longer beta firmware, but it is a legitimately amazing synth, despite the weirdness.
Cool. It sounds like it, because the stuff you do is really good, and I can barely hear the bugs in it. So
thanks. Yeah, all the bugs that are in it are like, they're pretty minimal.
I like the thing that's just like, no, you're what you're gonna write is garbage. I'm not even gonna turn on for you. Yeah, it's like this is not a good day for you to write music.
Yeah, it really is. It's like a mood ring of some sort, or an 8-ball, like the magic 8-ball.
Talking about like a heroin speed mixture.
Maybe it could go either way. You turn it over and it just goes, no, not today.
Yeah, I was the one thing I was gonna ever do for Eurorack was I was gonna create a module that would just randomly. after 12 minutes would just mute all your shit. And it was going to be called "Your Show's Over."
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because I've been to enough modular shows where I really wish, like Billy Corgan could have used that one a lot, and he did that 6-hour coffee shop concert.
Mm-hmm. And if it goes past 12 minutes, if you sort of like try to bypass it,
It's kind of irresistible, really. I remember when we saw Daniel Miller, and I was like, "Oh, Daniel Miller's going to do something," and it was yet another navel-gazing modular set.
Yep.
I was like, I mean, I wasn't expecting to hear the normal or anything, but Jesus Jones, like, come on.
This is when Your Show Is Over module would have been great. Doop. And then maybe it just like has a voice that just says, "Thank you, good night."
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. If you weren't in any way dissuaded by the fact that everyone is either left or is dead, then I guess.
And it turns out it's the most popular gifted module.
yeah.
I got you this for Christmas, your birthday. Congratulations, you're doing this show. Hey, you're playing here tonight. Use this module.
Yeah, dude, you got to
It
try
makes it
this
sound
thing.
better.
It'll sound great. It just takes 12 minutes to warm up.
and 98% of their demographics are women. Completely inverting the normal purchasing.
I've seen plenty.
Go to bed.
I've seen plenty of women modular synthesizer performances that needed the Your Show Is Over module as well.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm just thinking about the general sort of like disproportionate dude amount in the synth and music technology, and how we might have found one that just like transcends.
Martin Gore's last solo
bias.
album would have been 84% better if he had that module, because that was a self-indulgent piece of garbage album. I gotta turn on all my Eurorack and play it.
It's got all the blinky lights.
All of them in his bookshelves.
yeah, I mean, the dude has like 3 walls full of fucking modular. Like,
Some people have books in those
It looks
rooms.
like a
Yeah,
library.
it looks like it should be like his study, and like I don't really read, so I just filled it with Eurorack instead. All right. I mean, you could have filled it with snacks or, skirts or
You know,
something.
the sad thing is he probably didn't have to buy all those modules. They were probably all gifted to him.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean,
That is the crazy thing. Once you get rich, you get all this stuff.
when
for
we
free.
saw him at Moog Fest, they gave him a Moog 1.
That is a nice
No, they gave him.
Was it the Matriarch?
Well, that is
Oh,
a
yeah,
much
sorry.
more-
It was the
Yeah.
Matriarch.
But he had admitted in the interview that he had already
That's
bought
right.
a Moog 1, and this was before it was commercially available
Yeah.
to mere mortals.
Yeah.
So like,
one is what, 16 grand?
8.
8.
8. Yeah, might as well be 16 or 50.
But even the Matriarch's not a cheap piece of gear.
there's 2 models, right?
Yeah, there's like
the 8
voice and...
No, I thought they gave him some sort of like Fugazi award. It was like the Martin Gore for being
Well,
year
it was like
award or something, I don't
it was like the
know. They
Moog
gave him
Lifetime
some
Achievement Award thing, because they gave that to Gary Newman the one year, and they gave it to Martin Gore, and they gave it to somebody else one year, and
Right.
but then they also like, here, have this too. I'm like, great, thanks, and they wheeled it out for him.
Well, look,
Yeah.
that's all good. I mean, even though it's trendy to hate Depeche Mode,
I
like
have no problem with Depeche Mode, and you know
good for
what?
him.
I'm jealous because he got a free Matriarch, and I had to pay for everything at Moog Fest. So
You know what?
Stuff.
What I'll say about Martin Gore
I want free
What's
Moog
that?
stuff.
right?
Yeah.
is seeing him up close like that, and then I saw him again roaming around in the store later.
Yeah.
I think you did too, Ranger. But for that dude being 15 years older than us, looks fucking great. Guy looks good. I don't know if he's like eating edamame beans and drinking Diet Coke or whatever, but he looks great, man. So
Rich person 50 is poor person 40.
That's yeah,
Right.
fair enough. Yeah, and he was hanging out with like all the plebes too. So I mean, I was standing next to him at Modular on the spot and chit chatting with him.
Yeah, super chill guy.
So, anyway, next piece of news: the Surge. It's an old synth plugin that in 2019 they open sourced it and stopped developing on it, and then some community people started coming in and adding to it and changing it up and everything, and then they officially turned it into Surge XT 1.0, which is an open source Juice framework based synthesizer plugin that has all kinds of crazy shit. It looks really good. It sounds really good. It's a very impressive soft synth. They redid a lot of the sound engine in it. It has a tripole filter, 38 wave shapes. It has vectorized modulators and all this other goofy whatever the hell that shit is kind of thing. It's a really nice sounding. I mean, it does stuff that I don't quite understand what's going on with it. I downloaded it and I was running it yesterday and playing with it and just noodling with it, and it sounds really, really good. It's very kind of like on par with like some of the big hitters as far as like the soft synth stuff, especially for like EDM style music and everything like that. And it's free, and it's a VST3 or AU. And it is it is M1 usable as well. So this thing is cool. Like I said, I just like kind of like played with it for a little bit, and it sounds nice. It's got the effects engine sounds great. This is definitely something that this community of people put together that they did a fantastic job. The interface is fun to use. It's skeuomorphic where it's needed, and it's non-skeuomorphic where it's not needed, and I love that. But yeah, thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, it does look good, and it sounds good too.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. It's very funny when. Go ahead.
Fight.
It's very funny to me when you get these free open source projects like this, and they get the UI and the UX and the look and the feel and the sound like so much better than some of the stuff that you wind up having to pay like a pretty decent amount for.
Yeah, I mean that's probably true of a lot of open source stuff, not just music.
So I don't think I've used the older version of this, but it looks like one of the enhancements they made is you've got a lot more windows for diving into your modulation. So everything is visible now, so it's easier to use, and the programming enhancements make it just more compatible and easier to update. So that's the good news. To translate some of what Andrew said, in case you're unfamiliar with the term, so a tripole filter means that it's an 18 dB filter. So, and the most common are 12 dB or 24, so that's kind of unique. And that's what we call a low-pass filter. A lot of people believe that you shouldn't use poles when referring to a high-pass filter, and instead they use the term order, but it's still 6 dB.
Yep.
So this will have a unique sound, as everybody's mentioned. You know, it's a lovely sound, but it's not going to sound like, you know, a sequential. It's not going to sound like a Moog. It's not going to sound like a Roland. Tripole filters are uncommon outside of, I think the EMU 4XT had an 18 dB or a 3-pole filter option, because it had tons and tons of filter options in the Z-plane filtering. So, and it's free. So, awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer. And it gives you a unique enough sound where there's a good chance that you don't have something that sounds like this. Which is also kind of a lovely thing, unless it's like what Christoph said, there's not much out there that has tripole filtering and stuff. So yeah,
I mean, and as a result, when you use this, nothing else is going to sound quite like it, and people are going to wonder what that was. I mean, it's a subtle difference, but sometimes that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's free. Get it today. Go. We'll wait. Okay. We waited long enough for you. So yeah, the Surge XT. Next piece of news is the Atmos Synth Koem6. This is a desktop semi-modular analog synthesizer that our good pal and invisible co-host Robin posted this and sent this over to us. So this is made by a small company called Atmos Synth in Peru, which is not where I usually think of when I think of modular synthesizer manufacturers.
Nope, and that's awesome.
And it is. It absolutely is. So they built this cool little desktop semi-modular analog. And this is the latest version of the Mochica. That was last year. And then they came out with the M6, which is their new thing. And it's a single voltage control oscillator. It does saw and pulse waveforms. It has pulse width modulation, so Nick Bat will be happy about that. There's also a digital square wave oscillator that you can only control via MIDI, which is kind of an interesting way of doing things. And a square wave sub oscillator. And you have low pass, high pass, voltage control, and Vacterial based filters. And gives you a little bit of modulation with an LFO, random voltage modulator with 6 modes, including sample and hold, random dust, random gate, pulse, and MIDI CC out. And a little ADSR envelope generator, fully patchable, 17 inputs and 15 outputs. And a little delay effect in that bad boy for like spring style delays. Puppy will cost you $450. Sounds really cool. I mean, it sounds like it's fun, kind of Mother 32-ish kind of sounding, but with effects, which is kind of nice. And
it's the raw oscillators on this thing. It sort of reminded me almost the Pittsburgh modular semi-modular, real beefy, like super beefy.
Like the light forms.
What were those? Yeah, what were those little things too that Studio Engineering came out with, or Studio Electronics? It was the they're like little box.
Oh, was that the
for a while.
They still put those out. I can't remember what those little modular synths that they put out, those semi-modulars, I should say.
Yeah, they're like little boxes, and they had one with different filters. There's like a SEM filter, and then then they did one that had the CS80 filter. And I wish I could remember the name. They're in the raw oscillators on those. And whenever you hear these little units,
the Boomstar,
I guess a lot of modular stuff.
The Boomstar,
thank you. They just it's that sort of like where's the beef moment when you hear them, and you're like, damn.
Yeah, they say it sounds pretty big. And I think that also like I think that having the sub oscillator on there helps with that kind of thing, but also like mixing in the digital oscillator on top of that layering kind of thing is kind of a fun makes things sound even bigger. I know like the Medusa has that kind of power where it has like the analog and the digital. Both of those things, and you can mix those in together, and but that has also like 3 oscillators of each, so you can make super duper saw.
That's actually the secret weapon with the Pro 3, because it has 2 analog oscillators and a 3rd digital one.
Yeah, that's a real strength. That was the secret to Nitzreb's sound on their first album. Is they had used an SH-101 for all their bass sounds, and the producer wanted to bring in a DX7. And they were like, no way. But then once he mixed it in, they were like, yep, keep it. You're right. So, because you get such a fast attack with the digital oscillator, it really punches your sound up a bit.
Yeah.
So, it's a good secret weapon. So I had to look up what a Bacterial Filter was with this synth, because I didn't know. So it's a very simple design, and it's one of the filters that was used in one of the generations of the MS-20.
Yeah. They're really common in low pass gates.
Yeah. So, and it was really simple to manufacture, because I believe the original design for the MS-20, they ran into an IP issue, so they switched it out to this, and it was so simple to do. It's like, I can't believe people love this thing, but people do. So that might help explain why this thing has such a beefy sound. That and that digital oscillator, that really gives you punch. and amazing, modulation capability. And I can't remember who you shouted out, but yeah, pulse width modulation is super important. Pulse width modulation just opens up so much capability.
Nick Bad.
Yeah. So
Yes.
Nick Bad is right. So this will be a unique synth. It'll give you a good conversation piece. And I like that there's another country on the synth map, because we talk about Japan, Germany, Italy, France and the U.S., but we don't talk about a lot about the Soviet Union. But we never talk about like synths from China, because there really aren't any. And there's a lot of. I'd love to see more countries that we could talk about their synths. I know this is one guy, but still, it's a start.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's one like a Danish company, and there's that one in the Netherlands. There's actually a weird company, I can't remember what they're called, out of Iran, which is real weird. It makes sense. And obviously the Dreadbox guys are from Greece, or at least originally from Greece. So yeah, I mean, you'd be lucky to find a synth. Like even Italy is a little thin on the ground these days. I know that the Elkas were back in the day.
Yeah,
but,
the last thing I heard about of Italy was the Kumar and the Cheetah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, or Visconti when they had the Oberheim IP.
Yeah, yeah. Who's that guy we saw at what's his name? The Italo disco guy.
Synthmania.
Synthmania. Yeah. He's got a lot of expertise in that area. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think he's originally Italian.
He is. So. And he's a really good synth archaeologist. Like he can hunt down and find those sounds from the 80s. He'll find the sample library. I love his channel. And he really knows.
No, I mean, yeah. Jody and I do like to check out his little homages to that stuff.
His a couple years ago at KnobCon when he did the 60-minute Kraftwerk concert.
Yeah. Well, that was such a cool show because it was everybody doing a little thing different, right? It was, Soon Tai did the Tangerine Dream stuff. And, and then
he did the Kraftwerk homage, which was just brilliant.
Oh, that's great.
It was a blast. But yeah.
His channel's one that I really respect. Even though we are the only synth show.
We're the only show. We might be the only show on the internet, but there's these amateurs out there that think they can try to smooth in on us.
Yeah, with their little YouTube videos.
Yeah. These experts.
Yeah, they're not doing 2 hours live.
No. Somehow filling 2 hours of news that people that our 5 bots care about.
Where's their rant about how terrible the 303 is?
They're all like, check out the 303. It's really cool, and we're like, no, it isn't, and that's why we're lonely.
So help me!
Yay! So there's a company called Soundgas. Jeff, take over. Come on, buddy, give it to me.
All right,
Soundgas
is a store that does restoration of audio equipment. They do very, very high-end, like high-dollar restorations of stuff. If you're not familiar with them, they're taking a lot of stuff from from the 70s and 80s specifically, and bringing it back to life. And they've done stuff with like some of the big EMS things, and they seem to be like the world's premier source of working high quality tape echoes and things like that. But they there's only a couple of folks that run it, and I think it's like a fairly smallish operation. And one of the things that one of them was talking about in this article is essentially that the pool of people who are able to repair this stuff is shrinking. He was saying basically, he's like, all the people that are doing this they're retiring or dying, and he was basically saying like this community's just shrinking, and so in the past they've made some statements here and there about how electronic music, music technology, synthesizers, all this, music studio production has been kind of exclusionary for people, and they've made statements about what is it called, Gear Space and Mod Wiggler, like how those were alienating to people. And so this is not a sort of like stated as a direct response to that, but essentially the dudes at Soundgas have partnered up with some company that's done a lot of community building like this to start something called the Patch Project. And it basically looks like a big FU to Gear Space. They're going after and courting a bunch of manufacturers. Soundgas has a bunch of like very strong relationships with manufacturers. I mean, they are like one of the premier retailers of like analog solution stuff, new, and they're not, they're not just like, I think it's a small company, but they're not like a nobody or anything in the space. And so I kind of think they might actually make some traction with this, but they've talked really explicitly about how one of the premises and purposes of this is making it more inclusive and making it more inviting to women and minorities. And I think that's really cool. So they're building a community called the Patch Project. I hope it works. I thought it was neat.
That's cool.
Yeah, I wish, like, I noticed in some of the comments you put for this news item, it's like, it's one thing. It's true. There needs to be far more inclusion, definitely. But I think also just like this sort of, I hesitate to use the word decorum, but it is just like those two sites you mentioned become very quickly hideous trollscapes. And, I definitely just stopped reading it because I'm like, I don't want to see some noob getting browbeat or somebody with a somewhat contrary opinion to whatever sort of, analog synth. The analog synth gatekeepers were the most freaking annoying to me.
Yes. Or the ones who think that if you don't have, one of the things that you see on Gear Space all the time is this sort of like this high-end stuff where people think that you can't make a good recording if you don't have a $5,000 microphone or something. It's like, listen, people, Michael Jackson recorded like most everything on an SM57. It is also good enough for you.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of that. It's audiophile culture. I hate to say it, and I'm not picking on audiophiles. Audiophiles are fine, but it's just like that sort of like. I want to say contrarianism, but it's just sort of like constant gotcha competition with stuff, right? It's just like, which is just toxic kind of in its own right? Yeah. Because it's annoying to me that it's sort of moved into this space and it has for a while. But whatever. What can you do?
Yeah.
I wish him the best of luck because I would love to find a place that was more inclusive and more generally friendly and more like you can actually have a dialogue without getting browbeat because you're using the wrong oscillators or some bullshit.
Yeah, right.
So.
Yeah, the folks. I mean, if you don't follow Soundgas on Instagram or other social, like they're actually pretty fun to follow, and every once in a while, one of those people pops up who's like, you don't have the such and such, or oh, you're doing this. And wow, do they hammer them down with abuse. It's very good because they do not tolerate a bit of it. And they tend to sort of like knock it out in a very, in a way that I find very amusing. Because they sort of take the approach of like, if you're showing up here to fight, okay, we'll fight.
Yeah, that's kind of...
They just kind of like hand it right back.
See, but that's different than the sort of terms of service era we live in, This is like going back to the sysop days, right?
Yes.
Where the sysop wasn't just going to kick you off. He was going to freaking trounce you, and then they were going to kick you off. Or that was how they were going to roll.
Yeah.
And
it's that. So they're doing festivals, performances. They're trying to run community discussions. They said we've partnered with Wolf and White, who bring extensive experience and technical expertise in running international live and online events, which is essential to develop and manage the community and platform. In addition to a growing library of exclusive content with new weekly editions, Patch offers real-time interaction, safe, monitored community discussions, and monthly live events for performances, workshops, and panels. We'll be running 2 larger festival events each year, featuring exclusive performances, workshops, and panel discussions. Our 3 pillars are produce, promote, and prosper. So it seems like it's going to be cool. They say that the latter encompasses personal health and wellness as well as business advice. It seems like they're really like trying to build something new, different, and good.
Mm-hmm.
And importantly, in an industry that is dying off, and it's hard to get stuff serviced, and it's going to get harder. They're right. I mean, the knowledge base, the people who know this stuff are retiring or leaving, and there's not going to be able to fix our gear. It's difficult. So it's great that they're building a community to to pass this knowledge on, so it's not lost.
Yeah.
And so the community can get service, especially as we the cost on this old gear keeps going up because there's less of it. And you want it to work. So this is a really important thing, like a failing to recognize this is happening and to fix it before it's too late.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Well, it's a longish read on their blog, but it's a good one. And also, if you want to have a laugh, go look at some of the prices on their site. They got a CS60 right now for $12,450.
Yeah, I like.
What else?
Their front page had a whole article about the Space Echo. That was like so, and I went down the rabbit hole with that. That was really cool.
Yeah, they really know what they're talking about.
That's cool, and I really hope that patch becomes a thing that's not a toxic shithole like some of these other complaint groups are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing. I think that's one of the things that it's like a lot of synth communities are garbage, and because of that, because of because of this whole gatekeeping, because of this misogynistic kind of thing, because of just people want to be douche nozzles and stuff like that. I'm very happy that the synth communities that I've found are not like that, are not a bunch of raging hemorrhoids of people. And I'm very glad that those things exist. I'm glad for the Golden Shrimp Guild, which is a fantastic group of people that are really good at for helping out folks from across the spectrum of expertise and stuff like that, and Bo Beats' group and things like that. All these things are those two are especially the ones that stand out for me, that I can go and don't have to worry about people being chodes.
Yeah, I think a lot of times too, it's sort of like the difference between pure audiophiles and music fans that really just also like nice gear. And if you're only in it for the gear hoarding, that's what I find is when it becomes sort of a contest to see who can have the most stuff or the most expensive stuff, and it's only just about the gear. It's not about the music that you're making with it or performing or anything like that. It just for those people who are just in it just to show off and take the Instagram photos, that's when you find the toxicity. And those communities you mentioned are not that at all.
Absolutely. So so that's cool, and I hope that works, and I hope it grows, and I hope it becomes a big thing. So that's what I say. So in other news, John Haynes will be happy to know about it. We'll be happy about this one because he and I had this discussion about this thing just last week, and that is the new Casio. Yes, the CT-S1000V. That's not a mouthful at all. Vocal synthesis keyboard and the CT5500 portable keyboard But never mind about that for the CTS500. We want to talk about the CTS1000V, the vocal synthesis keyboard. That is not a vocoder. That does not vocode.
It's a
cheap Vocaloid. Or a expensive an expensive version of the stuff that's out there from Plogue.
Yeah.
So it does do other stuff too. I think it's got all the other things that are in the other synths in that line. I wasn't super impressed. I didn't watch a ton of the videos. I wasn't super impressed with the vocal synthesis, but the other sounds in it I thought sounded really good for the price, especially. But I can't say that I know much about current day Casio. My experience with Casio ended like 25 years ago, I think.
Yeah, I don't really have any experience with the modern Casio equipment, and I didn't watch. They did this big, huge rollout thing, and I know like Ben Jordan did a big talk about this thing and stuff like that. I didn't watch any of those. The only thing that I watched was the product announcement that they put out. That was just horrible.
It's not a very compelling video.
Okay. I have to comment on this. It was delightfully, hysterically, almost amateur. Like, I mean, I don't know how big a company Casio is, but it just felt very vacuous and weird. Like, the whole thing, this whole product is fucking weird. Okay, like, you know, I'm sort of like going back to the Arthurian legends. You know, like, you know, to whom does it serve? You know, it's like, who's going to use this thing, man? Like, who's really going to use this thing? Now, I might use it, but I'd like someone to fucking circuit bend it first, you know, because look, you're absolutely right. Plogue can do all this kind of stuff. The articulation of the text to speech is actually good on this, and it has a lot of interesting sort of effects, and I bet you could get really cool stuff. But for having a piece of hardware that just does that, it's banal. It's weird. I don't know. Like, I can't wrap my head around it. I'm not ambivalent. I'm literally like, I'm split asunder because there's part of me that's like, this is super weird, and that makes it really cool, and I bet you could fuck some things up with this. But then the other side of me is like, this is a useless piece of friggin' garbage. Like, I don't know. I'm very confused. I just don't know. Yeah. I don't know where I sit with this. I don't know.
So John's got some comments in the chat here. It says, here he says, it's a little ill understood as the short promo vids weren't that great. Yes, agreed. But for those that watched the 2-hour launch stream, it was an impressive package for the money. And as he points out, it doesn't just do the vocal.
Right.
That's one of the things that it's got in it. Otherwise, it's sort of like, it seems to be sort of like stacking up all of the other synths in the lineup and adding this on top of it.
I see. I think it would be more novel if it just did this one weird thing, but okay. They'd probably sell about 5 of them, and I'd probably end up buying one, so it's fun.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not my thing, and I'm not gonna, sit here and poo-poo it too much. And it looks like it's cool, and it sounds like it's neat. From what John Haynes was telling me, I'm listening to more John Haynes than I'm listening to Casio at this point about it, because he's definitely been like the hero for this.
The best part about that launch stream, I think, the launch.
I mean, I think this whole.
Oh, go ahead, Justin.
Oh no, I was just going to say, like, obviously my one project Subsoma heavily relies upon voice synthesis of this kind. One of the differences is, and we're sort of comparing it to Plogue, is in chip speech, Plogue are actually emulating real voice synthesizers. starting from the 1960s onwards, you know, and they've gone into egregious detail to emulate those. And so I think that's why like the sort of clarity and articulation is better here, is that they're not saddled with that emulation. But I prefer that crunchiness because it's with the sound I'm going for. But I think you can do a lot of cool stuff with this, and I think that theoretically that is a space that I wouldn't mind investigating, I guess. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Just everybody should watch the launch video and scroll to 3 minutes and 12 seconds in, because that's where they reveal that you can wear it like a keytar.
Wait.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Everybody's just speechless.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
You can wear it as a keytar. The man wearing it as a keytar looks like he's both like really pleased, kind of proud, very confused. It's like, why am I doing this?
I think Andrew's the only one I've ever seen that can pull off a keytar.
well, Thomas Dolby.
Because, yeah, okay, maybe. I just
I'm
think
not sure that Andrew isn't Thomas Dolby, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I have
either.
a picture of myself
think
with
that-
him, and you can definitely tell that I'm not.
Photoshop. Fake news.
I just want to say, Andrew, that your performance wardrobes are so fantastic. Like, you have got the coolest weird clothes of anybody I know, and you rocking it like, you know, like a silver smoking jacket or something ridiculous, you know, like with a keytar. Just was
That was
amazing.
that was the
Fantastic.
spacesuit.
Yeah,
There's something about Andrew in a jumper that makes me want to throw my hotel room keys at him.
right?
How you doing? Wow.
Yeah, the purple. Yeah, it's crazy purple outfit. I remember. Maybe it was a purple coat or something.
A
Yeah.
purple coat.
But yeah, you had some great
Oh.
clothes, man.
Maybe. I don't remember. I have too many weird. I had too many weird costumes in my time. No, I dress completely normal. Yeah. All right. So, yeah. So it's an interesting synth. It's a affordable synth for all the bells and whistles that it has on it. It's $450. Yeah, it has built-in speakers.
It's a really good price.
And it's going to be the next 303.
I'm gonna make
Affordable, people are
It's a
going to
really
buy
bad
them, and
price.
somebody's going to figure out some interesting thing to do, create a genre, and then we're going to people are going to be bidding $6,000.
Yeah, you know,
for
I
these.
think that Casio has such a, at least in the States, Casio has a reputation of making like department store, you know, little keyboards that you buy your kid for Christmas and stuff like that. I remember when I was like 12, I got an SK1 and I felt like I was like the shit because I wanted to be like Falco. And boy, was I disappointed.
There can be only one.
Those sound or
They do,
sell now
and
for
it
a
was like
lot.
$89 back then, and now it's like they sell for like hundreds of bucks and stuff like that. So I mean, but they have this reputation of that, except for like the CZ101 was an amazing synthesizer.
right.
You know, and then the SK1 became like this weird kind of like, I don't know why it sells so well, because
Circuit bending.
but even still, I don't know why it sells very well. I mean, it sounds like a portable tape recorder, and it has no sample time, and outside of like, you know, doop, you know. But I mean, and I'm not saying that they're toys, John. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that this is the reputation that they have. And I think it was like 7 or 8 years ago, they released a very nice like stage piano kind of thing that was really cool. And they released like a synth as well. And I never heard anything about it after that. And so I think that they're continuing trying to break out of the of the department store reputation that they have.
Branding.
I know they want to be Yamaha because they make, they make digital watches and don't they make like four-wheelers or tanks or something like that? I can't remember.
And if you can see, I've got my my
Yep, there you go.
Casio watch right here. Yeah, here's the thing. Yeah, I mean, look,
And pocket calculator.
I think it's again back to the sort of elitism, right? The fact that they cornered the market. They cornered the market at department store keyboards. I mean, like they got it is affordable first keyboard for a lot of people. So and they cornered that market so much that can you even name another company that made department store
Yamaha?
keyboards? Well, okay.
Realistic.
Yeah. But those were a little bit nicer. Those were like a slight step up. You know what I mean? It's true. I remember going to like Circuit City, right? And you'd have like the Casios, and those were things. And the next tier up. I think Casio had competitive tiers, but yeah, it was like a Yamaha. But I'm just saying they really cornered that market.
They did
super well.
They did, and they still make pocket calculators too. I just looked that up. And label makers,
right.
they still make it, and watches, of course. So that's and keyboards.
Oh, nice.
But I mean, and I hope that they can break through. John Haynes was saying that the CTS-1, which is like their piano, is really amazing for the money. And having things like the Bluetooth dongle and stuff like that, it works really, really well. So, and I hope that they do. And I hope that, that they have the potential of coming back onto the market and making some things that are incredibly unique. Or if anything, they can just pull a Roland and just like hang on for dear life for their, for the continued existence of just putting out stuff that is retro.
Honestly, putting out a retro might be just the thing to get the professional market to pay attention to them again.
They can do like a CC1,
CC1
yeah, or they can do an SK1.
Man, yeah.
All
If they
right,
re-released
with the
the CZ, I would definitely pick it up. Yeah, no, they should think about that because the CZ sounds great. And if they had some effects on that unit that were not half bad, they would. You listening, Casio?
Yeah. Sponsor us. We'll talk nice about you. So speaking of riding your own coattails until that dead horse is buried further into the ground, Roland is celebrating their 50th anniversary and their 25th anniversary since they put out something good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Congratulations, Roland, for existing. I'm in the lesser of people in not being a fan of Roland. But yeah, so they started in 1972. They just turned 50 this year, and this website that we just linked is their 50-year timeline, which is actually kind of cool to see.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to scroll through and everything like that. And you can see some of these classic things that they put together and that kind of stuff, and really kind of go through time and seeing these timeless instruments like the MC8 microcomposer, and the CR78 CompuRhythm, which was all over Phil Collins's Face Value album. And into like the Jupiters and the Pro Mars and some stuff I've never even heard before. Yeah. That kind of stuff. And then you get to anything after the, anything after like 2000, and there's just like, reissues. I mean, something out loud, voice.
Yeah.
Well, look, I did sell my V-Synth. I think it was cool. I mean, it was kind of a rompler on steroids, but I think they made some good stuff. But you're right. I think to me, the best thing they've made probably in the last, 10, 15 years has been the TR-8S and the System 8. I think those are things that they could kind of
Yeah,
compete with. I think the new, like
And
you
they're
said,
all the same engine.
you said Jeff Chat.
And
What's
they're all
that?
the same engine underneath. That's what they've really built, is they've built one virtual like engine to build everything else on top of.
Mm-hmm.
It's their Zen core engine,
Yeah.
so that
But then they,
it's so
well, that, yeah, System A was the ACB, right? And then they brought in the Zen core, which is funny because only Roland can shoot themselves in the foot. But I think the reason they did it is because ACB was so computationally expensive,
actually
which I
don't
can
know if
attest
System
to,
A
even
is
trying to run
ACB.
it in a DAW,
I think
right?
it might be Zen core, but the plugins are ACBs, right? Or am I
What?
thinking of the Jupiter? It's
No,
ACB? All right.
It's ACB.
I'm thinking
I
of
can
the
guarantee.
Jupiter XM then.
Yeah, it's the Jupiter series, like the Jupiter X, the Jupiter XM, and I think all the MC stuff they released recently in the Versal Lab. Those are all Zen core. Yeah.
Well, they also got like the 505 is also something that a lot of people use, and that is quite a popular thing too.
Now,
and
is that Roland or Boss?
That was well, Roland put out the big one, and then Boss put out the small version of it.
Okay.
Yeah. There's also from the not 1990s or 2000s, probably like one of my favorite guitar amps they made, the JC 120, which is still like jamming hard today. I've long considered getting one of those. I've played them a lot. They sound fantastic. They've done some good
Well, they're
stuff.
also like the premier guitar manufacturers too.
Yeah, only guitar, Premier guitar.
Well, no, this is because like I think it didn't like Elisa's come out with the guitar, and obviously the Moog Liberation, but like the Axe Edge. I mean, come on, that guitar is ridiculous. It looks like something Wasp would play, and I mean that in the worst way possible. And and of course my favorite Axe is the AX7.
Not the spray.
Not the spray, not the body spray.
Ah.
No. I have a very sensitive nose when it comes to shit like that, and it hurts.
So
Yeah, I know we're going to talk about the Phantom later, but I think the whole Zencore stuff and starting with the Zenology software and all the hardware that runs it, and you're going to hear this a lot, but like I kind of feel like they're looking at these, like a lot of people are like, look, these are just like all their workstations that they've been making, that everybody's like whatever, and Yamaha and a lot of these companies make these sort of big, lovely workstations, Korg, the Kronos series and stuff. It doesn't fit into my model because I'm not like I don't play at weddings
Right.
and stuff, so it doesn't make sense for me to have something like this. And I'm not dissing people that use these things, but obviously the Phantom is kind of that on steroids, because you could actually do a lot with the Phantom. A really good video showing the Phantom and Jupiter X is Alex Ball. I love Alex Ball if you've seen him,
me too.
he compares them, and oh my god, like the Phantom workflow looks like a friggin' nightmare. Like, yeah, it's powerful, but oh my god, like.
Well, if you dedicate yourself to just one synth and learning it, kind of like how we were with our Kurzweils. It took me a long time to get good with my Kurzweil, but then today it's one of my favorite synths ever because it just does so much that even most modern synths can't do.
Mm-hmm.
So now, unlike Andrew, I have a lot of Roland gear. So I'm not a Roland fanboy. I have a friend, Chris Smack, and he's a Roland fanboy. Just loves Roland. And for me, it's just I have no brand loyalty. It's just whatever tool is good. And some of the Roland tools I have are fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I will also agree with Andrew that the stuff that I like from Roland is all 25 years old or 20 years old. So I have a JV1010. My first drum machine was a Roland R8. I've got a lot of Boss gear. I've got a Roland TD7 drum kit. I've got a Roland MVS1. I've got the vintage synth board. So, but it's all older stuff. Yep. But that whole legacy line from the JD 800, to the JV 990, and then the 1010, or the 1080, the 2080, 5080. That's a fantastic synth line with a ton of power if you program it, and it gets derided for being like, oh, the presets. But if you don't use the presets, it's amazing what it can do. It's a really expensive sounding synth, and it sounded so much better than so much of the stuff that was out at that time. And so the guy who founded Roland, he refused to do reissues. He left money on the table. It's like, nope, always looking forward. And even most of the boutiques are virtual analogs instead of reissuing the old analog stuff, because that was just part of the company philosophy.
Right.
And, there was a lot of people in the company pushing him, put that out again. We can pick up money. And he's like, no. He was always future thinking. So it's a terrible company to work for, and there's a lot of problems we can say about the company. Like, once you bought it, that's it. You're not getting updates. You're screwed if there's a problem with it. And they'll say, oh, we're going to put out this thing. We're going to keep releasing plugins for it. Whatever plugins they release when they release, that's it. You're not getting more. So, and we all dislike their subscription model, but we can't say that they've put out bad gear. They're a top-tier synth company for a reason. They gave us a lot of synths that we could afford compared to the American manufacturers that came before them. So, they say they're going to release some amazing synth for the 50th. Who knows? Now that the founder is dead, maybe they'll finally release a real Jupiter 8 clone before Yuli Behringer does.
It's just going to be another Aerophone.
Probably.
Yeah.
Or an accordion.
Yeah.
There's a lot of accordions in this timeline. I did not know that they made so many accordions, but they sure did make a lot.
Well, and that's
I'd
the thing,
assumed
that nobody
zero.
really makes accordions anymore.
Thank God.
Well, my grandpa played it. It's a weird instrument. Who knows how to play that thing with all the buttons on the back? That's a lost art.
Right.
Oh, it's really funny. My mother was an accordion player when she was younger.
Yeah.
My neighbor lent me an accordion.
My favorite sushi chef will sometimes bust out an accordion and sing to you.
Well, that's amazing.
Oh, is that what's his face?
Chai? Chai, yep.
Or Chai?
Yep.
That's his name. Yeah, that guy's great.
He's insane. So yeah,
So
happy
yeah,
50th.
actually, John Haynes has a point. I don't think they have the analog engineers anymore, but they have the schematics probably.
Yep.
I know that for some schematics they were lost and they had to try to reverse engineer things for some of the boutiques they put out. But for the boutiques they put out, I think the only analog one they put out was the Studio Electronics one, the SCO2, which was put out with, and it was their engineers, the Studio Electronics, in conjunction with one.
Right.
To show what's so mind-bending, though, Christoph, is if you dig into the ACB, they had to hire analog engineers because they painstakingly reverse engineered the fucking circuit behavior, okay? If you go through that much goddamn trouble, why don't you just make some fucking analogs?
Well, part of it was because they don't have the factory lines to make it. I think when they put out the JP8000, which is legendary, and it's rumored that they lost money on it because it was so expensive to build. And if you open one up, there's a ton of components in a JP8000. There's so many chips and capacitors and electronics. But they said the reason why they couldn't release something like a Juno again is because if they did, it would cost them $12,000 a unit to make, because the supply chains are different and the factory lines are different, and that's why they couldn't do it.
What's really funny about Roland is their stuff gets so expensive. Obviously, like we talked about earlier, I think the Jupiter 8 is just like out there in outer space, right?
It's one of the most expensive synths you can get now.
Yeah, the Jupiter 6, which was my personal fave of their line, used to be like a couple years ago, I saw one listed for around $2,500 or $3,000. Now they're soaring up to like $7,000 or $8,000. So now people realize that they're just like a smaller but equally cool version of the Jupiter 8. But like what's real weird is the Juno, like the Juno 106, which I think was inflated for what it could do from a DCO machine.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's the D-12 moving in or the actually fast, like the soft tube Model 84 or any of the other companies that I think obviously Arturia does the Juno 60, but Roland released a 106 clone that they've actually dropped in price. You can now pick up a Juno 106 for still an inflated price, but lower. It hasn't moved in a commensurate way with the big VCO synths.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's because it is so limited. Compared to a Jupiter 6 or a Jupiter 8, that one oscillator really hurts it. And there are so many good options. If you want to get that sound, you can get very close with with either a boutique or software or other clones like the DeepMind, which will add another oscillator, plus, has like the, I can't remember the name of it, but that analog emulation that slightly detunes all the oscillators to give you a real analog shimmer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's also, I mean, you can get incredibly close with. Oh, good.
No, you go.
I was just say you can get incredibly close with most of the Korg stuff too, like the monologue and the prologue.
Yeah. So that's probably what's caused that drop. Whereas the Jupiter's 8 and 6 are still very capable synths, and they've just skyrocketed. I mean, I remember when it used to be the CS80 was the most expensive synth forever because those chips are impossible to find. And yet, in recent years, because of just auction prices, the Jupiter 8 is now one of the most expensive. More than the worthless, that Korg that has like a voice per key. So it's so ridiculously built in overfilled electronics. That was the most expensive for a long time and not really worth it. And now it's the Jupiter 8 until something else gets outbid on it.
SK1.
It's a beautiful, beautiful synth. And like I said, that's which I discovered through early underground album by Moby. Like he used the Jupiter 6 exclusively, and it just sounds so fucking good.
It is a beautiful sounding synth. It's hard to make a bad sound with it.
So yeah, happy anniversary, Roland. Keep up the good work.
Oh, one last thing that we think of, like, these units that they put out, like the Phantom, and where it does everything, but does everything hard. For the kind of musicians we are, that's not really as interesting. But we have to remember who buys most of these things is like churches, and like the musicians on a cruise ship, or that's where the real market is. Like, we're hobbyists, and there's only so many of us, but these other markets sell a lot more of them. So like for them, it helps to have 5,000 patches with 200 pianos in it.
Yeah, I'm not dissing it. I think it's cool. It's just not my bailiwick.
If they gave me one, I'd use it.
Yeah.
So Roland, if you sponsor us, we'll stop shit talking you.
Great. Yeah.
The Jupiter looks and sounds pretty good, but I would say it's taken down a notch.
Yeah.
It's taken down a notch from the ACB if you're trying to get analog emulation. That's just because, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I got to mess with one of those, and I thought it felt very cheap.
That's a lot of Roland stuff. Always feels really cheap to me.
It feels like it felt like Mod Wave Op 6, basically. It did not for me. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like long ago in the day when they made tanks for synthesizers, with the the Jupiter and those kinds of things, and then like even the mythical JP8000 kind of felt a little cheap to me.
Yeah,
the key bed, sure.
Yeah.
Like the knobs,
they're light,
but it's not a great synth action.
But their chassis are all plastic. I mean, everything's plastic. Like the System 8 weighs like 20 pounds. I mean, it's big. It's got a huge knob real estate, and you're like, why is this so light? Just don't, because really it's a VST in a box. I mean, that's the reality.
Yeah. Here's a chip. Have fun. Yeah.
Well, as light as it is, a light synth is a nice thing when you're touring with it, and you have to carry it. As long as light doesn't mean
right, because that's the other thing is
Justin has carried an ASR 10 upstairs.
Yeah, I have carried the EPS 16 Plus around. It's funny because when I was in Berlin, I met this cool Swedish guy who was a guitar tech for a bunch of bands, including My Bloody Valentine and the guy from the Black Crowes and just various bands. And he was in the band. He was touring with the band that had the keyboard player from the Black Crowes, and they had to take like one of these giant like Hammonds or something, like where it took like 5 guys to carry this thing up and down the stairs, and you're like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, light is good when you're touring, but also like it doesn't matter how light it is if it's built so cheap that you have to bring 7 of them anyway.
Yeah, like the CS80.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean though, like, because
Yeah, I do know what you mean. And it's important that it feels good to play with it and not feel
Right.
cheap. And I mean, like I haven't played with the system. I have played with the System 1, and it felt like the thing cost $20.
Yeah. You know who gets it right, in my opinion? And I know I'm a huge fanboy and I shouldn't talk. I think DI gets it right, or Sequential. I think they might not have the like attention detail that Moog does, but they definitely aren't cheap. You know, they're kind of a sweet spot. Really.
And they
Like
specifically design a lot of their synths for performance.
Yeah. I mean, the Prophet 8. So many friggin' touring bands use the Prophet 8 in the noughties. You know, I mean, it was ubiquitous, really.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that's kind of, I mean, they're built a lot stronger and that kind of thing. I mean, like, the Prophets are not light synths, they're still hefty boys, that's for sure. I think the Prophet 6 is probably the heaviest synth I have, next to like the Z1, but I mean, the Z1 doesn't go anywhere. The Z1's still heavy, and only with half its voices working, it's still just as heavy.
That's not right.
I know I need to get another voice chip, but I can't find another voice chip for it anywhere. It's sad.
You're better off just buying another one.
Yeah, exactly. And just being like, oh, there we go.
That's the only way to get CS80 chips.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, it is after 11 o'clock, and we still have stories left. So do we go on, or do we hold off for the next show?
I don't know. I'm tired. Let's roll
All
over.
right, me too. I'm pooped. I got to get up early tomorrow and work. I know. Meanwhile, everyone's like, no, keep going, keep going. Oh, come on. Wambra and Latui are the only two people that are saying for us to keep going, and they just showed up now, so it's their fault for being late.
They could have kept us on track.
They could have
this
been.
whole time.
I know. We're full of sadness. But the nice thing is that we'll be back in 2 weeks, and Jeff and I will be playing Synthfest this weekend. What? Jeff, what
That's
time are you
right.
playing?
I'm playing at the inhumanly terrible hour of 8 a.m. Eastern time on Saturday morning.
That's not too bad. I've had to play the inhuman time of 6 a.m. on Saturday morning a few times. Those were fun shows. That's when I made bacon for one.
Yeah, I stayed up for
and then
one of
I
those.
got out of bed for the other one. I was literally still in bed, and I had my own nightcap on, and I was making sample manipulation of an alarm clock for 2 hours. So yeah, I'll be on at 1 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. Toto Robin will also be on. Toto Robin, what time are you playing on Saturday? Do tell. And I don't know if DNKTRL is actually on or not, but if they are, the DNKTRL is my third favorite Dane. Toto Robin's playing 11 a.m. Sunday Eastern time. Are you playing? Latui, are you playing? I don't know. If so, tell us. Wambra, are you playing? Oh, everyone's just silent. They're just staring at us. All right, Latui's not. All right, well, John Haynes, you should play. Anyway, we're going to head on out of here. Let's see who is online right now and ready to go. Surprisingly, Bard is not on. She started earlier today, and so she's no longer online. So I think we will bounce over to Octonode so everyone can go play with some goldfish. So yeah, we're going to bounce on over and raid Octonode. So thanks again for watching. We'll see you all on the next exciting episode of Tangents in 2 weeks. And we'll see some of you this weekend at Synthfest. Anyway, have a good night. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
I should probably actually tell it to raid. Nothing's working. There it goes. 1-0 raid.